Just sing on.
What?
It's ggnore.
What is that?
ggnore?
We're back, kind of. And we're going to do a podcast.
I don't even know what this is.
This is a podcast about role-playing games, tabletop role-playing games. But we have a very small crew tonight, just 3 people. And we're talking about what we're going to play next. We've got that settled. So the next episode you hear will probably be an actual play. But this time, we're going to talk about a topical topic.
You said 3 people. Do you not count yourself?
No, I'm not real.
Oh, okay.
I'm the DM. I don't count. I'm not a player.
Doing some math there. Okay.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the new Zelda game. But we're not going to talk about spoilers or story or anything. Who cares about that stuff? I mean, I kind of do. But we're going to talk about how you can use lessons from the new Zelda game, Tears of the Kingdom, for RPGs. Now, the funny thing is that I, Daniel, typically the dungeon master here, but not always, I'm the only one who has played the game. And I haven't even beat it, not even close. Maybe not even...
Not even close.
Probably less than 20% of the way through the main story.
He's just sitting on chairs the whole time. No way.
He's just getting forklift certified.
So how much time have you spent just fooling around with the mechanics?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot of time.
Okay.
So I've got a good handle on the game. I played the previous game. I played a lot of Zelda games. So I feel like I'm qualified to talk about it, even though I don't know what happens in the end, and I've only done like a few main story missions. I agree with... Now, this is going to be maybe a useful episode, even if you don't care about Zelda or haven't played the games, because it's just talking about the experience of playing the games and how that can be similar to the experience of playing a tabletop RPG or running one or coming up with content for one.
And also it's us. I mean, it's us too, so
it's
useful.
So I heard somebody say that this game, Tears of the Kingdom, the sequel, makes the previous one, Breath of the Wild, look like a tech demo instead of a real game, and that's totally true. Because there's so many more sandbox elements in this game than there were in the previous game. The previous game could seem empty as you're exploring the open world, like there's just not a lot of stuff to do. And this one is not that way, because I think like development was like 6 years on it, even though it's like glorified DLC. It uses basically the same map as the previous game. But there's so much more to do, and all the systems connect way better, so that your like moment-to-moment experience is heightened, and you're always thinking, how can I use this time, this area to my advantage? So let me lay it down for you. Okay. Feel free to jump in whenever you want.
Can I ask a Zelda-related question before you get into it?
Yeah.
So why, and this is maybe broader than just Zelda, why do they only release Nintendo products for Nintendo?
So you buy the Nintendo products,
right?
And they are literally the best selling.
And they never put their games on sale. Like when you buy a Nintendo game on sale, it's like 15% off.
But I guess for me, it's like an economics question about console exclusives or whatever. If you sold a few fewer consoles, which by all accounts they lose money on most consoles, right?
Yes, almost. I bet they do. Yes.
I know for a fact that PlayStation and Microsoft, or Sony and Microsoft, have said they lose money on consoles. So I'm not close to it.
Yep.
It seems like what you would gain in being able to sell your game cross-platform would more than make up for.
But maybe
But I guess there's development costs too.
Maybe they are so committed, less to the profit and more to the ethos and the quality of the product that the Nippon bring to it. That they don't want to sully it by just selling out to the profit.
I'm just saying, for me,
incentive.
Every year or so, there's like one Nintendo exclusive that I kind of want to play.
Mm-hmm.
But one game to me is not enough to justify buying a system to play it.
And that's where you're wrong. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah,
And so-
basically, if you're a gamer, you should have a Switch. I mean,
Well, so
Basically.
long story
I'm not a
short,
gamer.
Nope.
I'm like, I haven't gotten to play very much Zelda over the years because I've never really consistently had a Nintendo.
well,
And I haven't resorted to other means to play.
that's a
the
terrible
Zelda
form of
games.
poverty.
I'm telling you.
I grew up
Yeah,
with a
it's-
Nintendo.
yeah, and I guess, so what are your views, gentlemen, of Nintendo as a brand? Do you have overall positive views?
This is not what the
You feel like
episode
the
is
trend
supposed
is-
to be about. But
We'll get
that's
back to
okay.
it. We'll get back to it. Yes, positive views. I have no problem with it, but I just don't participate.
And you never grew up with it.
I mean, I had the original,
Did you have a Sega Genesis
I
instead?
had the original Nintendo,
God bless you.
and then I had a Sega Master System.
I bet you did.
And a Sega Genesis.
Nope.
But so when SNES, Nintendo 64 after that, I did not.
That's your problem.
So
but
no
I had-
Nintendo 64?
No, but I had.
Oh, you
but
missed out on like the best one.
My
Yeah.
friends did, and I played theirs. But for whatever reason, I just didn't keep with it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Did you play Super Mario 64? Did you play?
No.
Oh my god.
So I played.
That's the game that changed everything. That is
Yeah, I
such an
know.
important game.
So I had an Atari, and then we had a PC when I was a kid.
Okay.
The first console that I owned after the Atari was a PlayStation 2.
Oh,
I
man.
A
know.
lot,
I-
man.
Skip to the PlayStation 2.
Well, I had like the kids across the street had Nintendos and Super Nintendos, and then I had access. Like in college, we had a Nintendo 64 or two in my dorm room, but I never actually owned and I had a buddy that had a PlayStation, and I would like, go to his house and just be like, "Hey, can I go play your PlayStation?" And I would sit there.
Okay. Well,
Anyway.
I just want to say, I guess my point, just consider the brand power.
Oh, yeah.
Of these few combined,
Yeah.
we just name, if you give me 5 things, but we just name 3 things.
Yeah,
Pokemon,
yeah.
it's massive. It's actually the most expensive, the leading IP in the entire world.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it really?
It is.
Yeah, the most profitable.
The most profitable IP. Mario
Would have thought it would have been
and Zelda.
collected
Yep.
works. Of
It's like
Dickens.
3.
that's it.
God, that is so much gaming history.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you got to respect Nintendo.
They
You
came
guys-
out-
I respect them absolutely. I just hate the notion of like platform exclusives. To me, it seems like you're shooting yourself in the foot for some.
Well, they only have to develop for one
Yeah, that's probably
platform,
yeah.
and they don't have to support it. And
I mean, there's so
and
much
people-
more headache and complexity if
They
they
could-
have to get it outside of the
Well,
Nintendo
nowadays they could just do a
ecosystem.
terrible job like the cyberpunk people and just develop it for no platforms really.
Well, and
But their honor
they're
would be
controlling
besmirched.
they're
Right,
controlling
right.
their brand. So
Yeah,
it all comes together
like
in your
Apple.
mind. Yes, it's like Apple. This all comes together in your mind. This is Nintendo. Whereas you could see, you could have you got Link on a PS5 or something like that mixed in with other characters, and it dilutes the brand. And you've got to keep that the continuity of the brand there. And I think that's why they want to control it so closely.
And plus, like I was saying earlier, their games effectively never go on sale.
Right.
Even 10 years later, you will be paying $60.
right.
And so they're getting their money.
And the resale value. I don't know if you guys knew this. Resale value for Switch games actually really good.
Yep.
Yep, because they're cartridges. They're physical little cartridges that are very durable in a way that a CD is not, apparently. So,
Yep.
source guy at the game store.
Bro,
I was like, why does this thing
reliable.
cost so much?
Yeah, but yeah, that is the thing.
No,
that
he
when
was just scalping you and like giving you an excuse for it.
No, it's
No,
just-
bro,
that's just
the
me.
resale of these is delightful.
if you get a game that you don't like and you get it physical, you can sell it off for not that much of a loss.
Yeah,
which
and you
is
can't
kinda
do that
nice.
if you just downloaded it or even CDs. They're pretty. They can mess up in so many ways.
Yeah, if you're-
Anyways, but Zelda.
Yeah. Okay. So I grew up with an NES, Super NES, N64. I played Ocarina of Time, but that was the last Zelda I had played until Breath of the Wild, which did the open world thing and made people want to use gliders for everything. And it had some cool things that you could do, but this brings up the intersection with RPGs. But the cool things that you could do by default, like the equivalent of spells or class abilities, were too effective and too readily available. They weren't hard enough to use. They were the equivalent of a fireball or magic missile at level 1.
Like what?
So one of the easiest things you could do throughout the entire game is you can conjure bombs. Little square bombs that will stay in place and circular bombs. And they're just on a cooldown. And so you can just abuse that over and over and over to do fights in Zelda. The Breath of the Wild, the original new version of Zelda. And so it just made things boring because the effective strategy then is to conjure a bomb, throw it at a bunch of enemies, wait for the cooldown, throw it again because it rolls. So you can just do that forever. And it's optimal. You don't have to have any stats. And it was boring. And the other things you could do, well, I'm kind of forgetting now, but that was the main combat thing. There weren't enough reasons to interact with other systems in the world. Like there's cooking, but I found that I didn't really need to cook a bunch to like get health back and stamina and that kind of stuff. And so the world just ended up feeling empty, and there was no reason to fight, like to grind on enemies, because in a kind of infamous move, they made all your weapons have durability, so they would break easily.
So it was almost disincentivized. That's what I found, because I'd be like, oh, there's a treasure chest. Maybe I'll get something nice out of it. But it could be nothing nice at all. And then I've also have broken weapons now.
Yeah, a lot of times the treasures weren't good at all.
Yeah.
And so you'd get something worth like $100, and you just spent $500 of weapons to get it. So it disincentivized you from fighting.
So the durability it's not just that durability is there, but it's like aggressively bad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So it is. Yeah, you can hit things just a few times. Really, you'll take a sword and you'll go through at the start of the game. You'll go through like a fight or two, and it breaks in the middle of the fight, and you have to whip out another weapon.
And the reason they did that is so that you would not lock yourself into one thing, and you would experiment with a whole suite of weapons, and sometimes have to like fall back on stuff you don't normally use to induce variety into gameplay. So the idea,
you'll spend more on weapons to fuel the military-industrial Nintendo complex.
Eisenhower was right.
So the idea behind that is solid because they want you to have a good time and not rely on unfun optimal strategies, right?
Oh, and let's not lose the thread here. I mean, this was like game of the year.
Yeah.
By most measures. I mean, it was a great game.
It's one of my favorite games of all time.
It's awesome.
I'm sad I never played it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So take our complaint with a grain of salt.
Well,
I was okay with it, but I definitely felt like there were times where I would have liked to have done more things, and then I didn't do that because I may not have had any weapons after. So there you go.
As someone who only played it years later on an emulator, with mods where my weapons didn't break and some other stuff, because I was like, man, everybody just loves this. I just gotta give it a good try. I played maybe 20.
It changed the mechanics. Gotcha.
20 hours. I still couldn't get into it. Maybe that's because I just I didn't have the brand loyalty or whatever, or just I think some of the open world parts, the very very open world parts of it, just kind of was like, this is a bit much. Maybe it's where I was in my life. I don't know.
And Breath of the Wild also didn't have that much in the way of a story. The essential thing was go kill the big boss, and at the end you can go straight there from the beginning of the game and go kill the big boss and be done. So that's a point in its favor. That's
super cool.
Extremely sandboxy game. If you're good enough and you know what you're doing, you can just go finish the game in 30 minutes or something. But the way the story is told is through flashbacks. If you go to particular places and find the interactable points, and it's not very satisfying. And all those flashbacks can happen out of order. So if you're not invested in the lore, it can be unsatisfying as a hook to get you into it. Like you never played Zelda, so you wouldn't care. So there were some problems with Breath of the Wild. So Tears of the Kingdom, it fixes the game in a number of ways. It takes a lot of cues from Elden Ring, which we've talked about Elden Ring and its relationship to tabletop RPGs before. But so in Elden Ring, I don't think this is much of a spoiler, and it's been out for like more than a year. There's like a whole underground map section, in addition to the overworld, and there are interesting connections between the two. Tears of the Kingdom takes that a step further. There's that, but then there's also sky maps. and you can go in
Overworld.
between
I'll see your underworld.
and raise you an overworld, literally. So it has these interesting things where you're always thinking about what's up and what's down. You'll get quests that lead you underground and also above ground. But the coolest thing about Tears of the Kingdom, which I'm sure you've seen if you've seen anything about it, is that your default powers now are not as direct and blunt. They're not the equivalent of having a magic missile available on a cooldown, so you can just be boring. It's like walking through a dungeon with a 10-foot pole just tapping constantly and just doing extremely boring things because that's optimal. So we don't want that to happen. So in tabletop world, we've come up with ways, when I say we, I mean people who have blogs, have come up with ways to disincentivize people from doing that, which is making sure your traps are obvious, that you don't feel the need to tap constantly with a 10-foot pole in front of you all the time. So Zelda fixes its problem, or the new Zelda does, by having your default powers be very OSR-y. Like, you can fuse stuff together, and anything you tap, if it's mechanical, it will activate. And so things activate together. So you can put a bunch of junk together, fuse it together, and you've made a machine. And that machine can carry stuff, it can lift stuff, it can attack stuff. And probably people will be coming up with new ways to use all of this stuff like years from now that people haven't even thought of yet. If you go on YouTube or anywhere and search for it, you can find tons of great ideas. And the fun part is that they've tuned a lot of the puzzle elements of this game to work with that. So they give you physics-based problems without single solutions and then let you solve them however you wish. Now, you can come up with a boring way, or you can come up with a really inventive way. And another thing they do that makes sure you can't always come up with a boring way to fix things is you can't always choose the materials you have on hand. So you may be familiar with the idea of a gacha game, Gacha. So it's like the idea of putting in a coin into a machine and then turning the little handle and seeing what comes out. You don't know what's going to come out, but you know there's like a certain set of things that could come out, like a random loot table, because that's exactly what it is. And that's the way your little technological machinery comes to you in Zelda. You either find it on the ground and you can't carry it with you, or it comes randomly distributed to you, basically from a random table. You spend a resource that you get from fighting machines, and then that resource gives you a random assortment of junk you can carry with you that you can use to build stuff. So you never know what you're going to have on hand exactly. And so you, in times of need, will be making weird stuff and having to actually use your brain constantly.
That's just one of the powers, though. You're talking about the fuse.
Right, that's just one of it.
Okay.
So that's called Ultra Hand. That's not a spoiler. You learn that really early on. The other one you have is Fuse, where you just attach stuff to your weapons. That's one way they avoid being frustrated all the time with your weapons breaking, because you can effectively like repair your weapon by, when the tip of it breaks off, fusing it with something else. So you can kind of keep weapons around that you like, but also you're more interested in just, you can fuse stuff in the environment. So you can always find new weapons. It's not a big deal.
So do they still break constantly?
Yes, but I feel like it's not as fragile in general, especially if your weapons are not made out of like a stick.
Knowing Nintendo, they probably adjusted that a bit.
I feel like they did, but even then I haven't had a problem with it, really. But that's not like a problem-solving power. That's just like a attack combat power.
So the fuse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your other problems, we have two more problem-solving powers, really. One is you can reverse time on any non-static object.
Okay.
So if an arrow is shot at you, you could reverse time and make it go back. If you accidentally lose a cart and it runs away from you, you can use your time stop power and bring it back. If somebody throws a boulder at you, you can use time stop on the boulder and throw it back at them.
Okay.
And so they use this for problem solving. You can also use it in combat. It's like a spell. Very easily you could convert that into a D&D spell. Just target any object and it goes back, X amount of time based on your level that you cast it at. Something like that. Not a big deal. Very cool, and it preserves momentum and all that stuff. And then the other one for problem solving is another very easily convert a D&D spell. You can just go up through solid surfaces. So anything that has a ceiling that's within the height limit, you can go up through it. And if there's solid material in it for like a mile, you'll emerge a mile up. And you can either cancel it and go back down once you see what's up there, or you can finally emerge, because when you stop, you're just like halfway through and looking around. So you can choose, no, I don't like this. This is bad. I'm going to cancel. Or you can go through the whole thing, and that's it. So that's all the problem-solving stuff. But it creates such a rich variety of options based on the circumstances that it's great. Oh, and you can attach stuff to your horse's bridle, to your, like, you have like a towing harness you can put on your horse. So you can like make a cart and then attach that to your horse and like tow stuff around.
Oh, man.
It's really fun.
Huh.
Yeah,
What do you think about that, Tim?
I have watched all kinds of videos. I've watched Benjamin play, and I've watched videos you've sent and stuff like that. And it is really cool. Like, it's very clever and cool. I love how they're so creative and how they put those systems together to be so sandboxy. I mean, it's just not for me to play. Like, it's too much for me. And
this
where
is
I
a
am
bit of an
to
aside,
play,
but if you're
it's
really into
cool.
horse-drawn carriages, I can connect you with my parents' Amish neighbors.
That's all right. I'm not that into it. But another thing that
But it's cool that it works, though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. You say, "Gee, can I do this?" And then you can do it.
Another great thing about this game, Tears of the Kingdom specifically, is the way that overland travel is always interesting, because there's always something you're looking for. So there's repetitive puzzle elements. So there's a guy that holds a sign, and one side is balanced, he's holding it, and the other side is unbalanced, and he needs to let it go so he can fasten the sign. It's like a dumb joke, like he's too dumb to figure out how to work it. But the sign is always shaped differently, and it's in different terrain so that the physics are different. And so you have to figure out a way to like rig up some kind of scaffolding that will hold the sign in place once he lets go of it. So this guy is there all the time. If you're just looking around, he'll be up on the top of a cliff or down in a valley. So when you're navigating the overworld, you're always looking around for this dumb guy, because when you solve his problem, he gives you a reward. And plus, it's just fun to solve the problem. The other thing is there are these little nature spirits that give you the Korok seeds that let you expand your inventory. And so they are like implicit puzzles where you just notice a pattern in the world, and you know something that's wrong with the pattern, and then you take steps to fix the pattern, right? So like there could be an arrangement of rocks and one looks off. So you're always looking for weird stuff in the world. So that means you're not looking at a map, you're not looking at markers, you're looking at the actual world, because you're trying to like read it and make sure you're not missing anything. So the idea of bringing that kind of stuff into your D&D game is so good. Now, the fairy spirit thing, or the little nature spirit guy, that's perfect. You can just port that in right away. When you're describing your overland travel, you can describe stuff like that. Like, there's like a grove of trees over there that seems to be like in a shape of a heart. And then, depending on the situation, I mean, maybe it means something, maybe it doesn't, but there could be a little puzzle there that could be solved with magic or cleric stuff or
an axe.
Or just an axe. Yeah, you can cut something down. And that's just something you gain by adding some lore bits to your world. Like there are these little nature spirits who are mischievous and set up these little situations for you. So that's one thing. The other thing that makes the world really interesting to traverse is you're always wanting these like materials from the world, way more so than in the previous game. Like there's tons of plants. Some of them have fire seeds, some have ice fruits. And the reason these are important is not only can you cook with them to produce potions, right, which you can do in D&D, but you can also attach them to your weapons and to your arrows. And so being able to set things on fire and do elemental effects, and there's even like ninja smoke, like there's these puffball mushrooms that you put them down and then enemies lose track of you and you can sneak attack them. Like you can put that on an arrow and shoot it. You can throw it directly. You can put it on a sword and hit people with it. You can put it on your shield and then it activates when they hit you. So all these things are valuable. And so you're always on the lookout for all of them. And you need to use them all the time because they've calibrated the difficulty of the monsters and their HP and stuff such that it seems like you're never quite powerful enough, and you always need the extra edge that these systems provide.
Calibrated.
Tweaked.
D&D
So by the
designed.
region, or wait, what do you mean?
No, it just means I never feel like I'm strong enough. So
Balanced.
Same.
yeah,
no, I felt like in Breath of the Wild, you kind of got some of that because you could go around feeling very creative and very powerful. It's an amazing world in that, like, you can say, oh, I wonder if blank will work. I wonder if X will work. I wonder if I can do whatever. And it turns out often that you can, and it feels really good when you pull it off. But then you can be killed very quickly by a lot of things. It just gets really out of hand.
yep. And all that, if you felt that way in Breath of the Wild, the new game is even more so. And there's been many times where I'm out of my normal stuff that I normally use, and I have a personal rule, and I advocate that you use this rule. The game does not enforce this, but it should be the way the game is. I don't heal in combat. You can just go into the menu and eat food, and you get your hearts back. But my personal rule is that I will not do that. I'll only heal when the enemies have not detected me. So either I'm out of combat or I'm hidden from them.
Have you guys heard the term Nuzlocke before?
No.
Nuzlocke? Oh, okay. It's a whole thing. So Nuzlocke Academy, it's I guess it's an individual. I'm not sure. It probably started like that. So they make up like specific rules, like thresholds for levels, things like that for Pokemon games to make Pokemon more difficult. So you do a Nuzlocke run of a Pokemon game. It means things like, one, like you cannot have any Pokemon that are greater than the level of the gym's Pokemon. So like you can never be over leveled. 2, like you can only catch one Pokemon in every region or something like that. 3, if a Pokemon dies, it's dead forever. You know, like these kind of rules. So it's funny. They're already emerging for you. It's like, oh, I can't heal during combat. No, that's cheating. That's not okay. And I wonder what other kind of layers might be interesting to build on that.
Well, that definitely makes, to me, I think that makes the game a lot better. I know this is a game for kids, so they don't want it to be too hard. So you can chomp down on a bunch of eggs and meat and stuff in the combat to
A
refill
game
your
for
hearts.
kids.
Wait.
Yeah.
According
Wait.
to your rule,
Wait,
would you allow for healing potions in combat?
No.
Even if it's just like a little value.
Wait, is this because combat you
But
can
think about in real
you can
life.
literally pause combat
If you make
to
distance.
heal? Is that the issue?
Yeah, but that's like a lot of
games
do that. Yeah.
Like all the Elder Scrolls games, you can do that. Lots of old school RPGs, you can do that.
Right.
Where you could just like
No,
pause
but
it,
I'm
pause it,
saying-
and like eat food. Like
I'm saying the rule makes sense, right? Because if me and Tim were in a fisticuffs, I couldn't like stop and
Eat your
like,
turkey.
eat a couple of chips real quick.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it'd be
Like, is that-
consuming several chicken breasts and like some berries or something
mean,
like
maybe-
that.
See, the food consumption makes sense, but I'm saying if like you've had
The food consumption doesn't make sense.
No, it does make sense. But if you have the
It doesn't make sense.
no, it makes sense to not do it.
Oh, thank you.
But
That's okay.
But like a little vial of potion, like you get some distance, like you're taking a break, your defensive posture, you sip it. And
Well,
done.
my rule
Like a
is
shot.
I can like retreat, and so they lose sight of me, and they're not aggroed anymore, and then I can heal.
I mean, the last
Okay,
like
that seems
the
fair.
last like real life fight that I got in, I was in college, so it was a long time
was
ago.
this in Jacksonville?
No, this was in,
Jacksonville.
Tennessee. Okay. And at one point, I had the guy like across my shoulder, kind of choking him, and like I probably could have cracked open a Coca-Cola and had a sip or two, like in that moment. But that was a rare situation,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Depends on the kind of fight.
right.
Well, anyway, as I was saying, I've been in many situations where, because of this rule especially, I was in a bad way. I've like one hit from death. All my good junk was either broken or useless, because sometimes the enemies will have armor that can only be defeated with certain kinds of approaches, like stone armor has to be hit off with a boulder hammer or something like that.
Guys, that's really good.
Yeah. So I have to
I
like
like it.
scroll through my inventory and say, what in the world do I have here that I can use, or do I have to literally just run away and restock? So it's great, and we can learn from this in D&D specifically, because D&D does not, in my experience anyway, it doesn't really have the problem where things are too easy, because you're one or two bad swings away from death generally in the lower levels all the time. And so you already feel like that, like, I'm not strong enough. I need to be stronger. I need to go Pokemon mode. I need to go Super Saiyan. So put lots of things in your D&D setting that you can use, like in Zelda, where you're excited about exploring and finding weird mushrooms. Like, that's just fun. I think it's fun. But to do that, it requires work. Like, you have to set up systems and stuff on your own. So that's what I'm doing for my junk. I advise you to do it to your junk. I'm pretty sure that there's like a gajillion D100 tables of flora that you can forage.
Oh, yeah.
So just do that. Anything to make people scrap, search, save, look out, pay attention to the world. And it's a little different because the latency is a lot higher in tabletop games than it is in video games, where you make a movement and the response to that is immediately visible and interactable. Instead of just saying, I move 10 feet, the wall continues. I move 10 more feet, the wall continues. It expands on the right hand. You're in a 10 by 10 area. The latency is a little higher there. But in general, if you want a great master class on doing an open world sandbox RPG, just spend a mere $370 to buy a Switch and Tears of the Kingdom. Some people have suggested to emulate the game on a PC.
No.
What?
Some people not support Nintendo?
Is that even possible?
I wouldn't say whether it's possible or not. I know that if one were to do that, it's probably a good idea to at least buy the game digitally or something, so the people get money. It's an actually good game. It's developed properly. Day one, it ran okay. It was fine.
Yeah, that's a really funny thing about Nintendo games.
They have a higher
They
level of
actually
quality.
work.
Yeah.
It's not... Yeah.
It's not a Gotham Knights situation. Yeah. It's not a Gollum. The Gollum RPG. Have y'all seen that?
Yeah.
Yes, it looks terrible.
I saw Donkey's video on it today.
Oh man.
Isn't it a
I'm amazed that people
VR?
looked at it and say,
Isn't
"Oh,
it
this
a
is
VR
fine."
game?
No.
Or
No. It's just a bad game.
You just
This is fine. Let's release
you're
it.
just Gollum the whole time.
I think a Gollum VR game would be kind of fun.
I
Actually,
thought it was a VR game. Maybe I just told myself.
And you have
it was
like
a
you
VR
look
game.
down at your hands, they're like little Gollum hands. And you're like grabbing fish and looking for your precious.
Yeah, but the plot twist is eventually the VR handle things like start to fuse to you, and you can't take them off.
The thing is,
by the end of it, like you are Gollum.
I think a Gollum game could actually be fun. Like,
Oh, totally.
because think of all the mischief you could get up to for the precious, and use the precious to get up to more mischief. But they don't want us to do that.
I mean, it's basically Harry Potter. I mean, the ring is the equivalent of the cloak of invisibility.
There you go.
You just get up to mischief.
So I need to know, what do you think comes up short in the Zelda game, if you were to be critical, and how should we do that differently? And
Can I jump in
At the
before
table.
you answer that and answer that as someone who hasn't played it?
yes,
One of the things that sort of turned me off of Breath of the Wild was the significance of cooking.
yeah, it was not a thing I used a lot when I played Breath of the Wild.
Well, I had a sense that it was important, and I never. I was like, I like to cook in real life. I don't know that I like to cook in real life enough that I want to like cook in a video game.
Yeah, remember when we played Monster Hunters?
Yep.
That was awesome. But I was awesome, by the way, when we did that.
Yeah.
So cooking was something you had to do, and it was kind of fun because it was they had these great cutscenes, and you were like with your bros, and it was kind of celebratory, like getting pumped to go into this thing. And Zelda, it was really cute the first couple times I did it. I played with it a little bit, but I never found a big use for it.
Yeah, well, in Monster Hunter, it was like you're all together and you do it once before you go out.
That's right.
And
it's a super cute cutscene. Yeah, and we're like, yeah, let's do it.
But in Zelda, it's like, hey, cook to make all this junk that you need to eat in the middle of to have healing stuff in the middle of a fight.
Right.
Kind of thing,
Right.
Okay.
As
So
opposed to just finding potions.
I've got
or
something to say
managing
about this.
your Estus flask.
Well, let me tell you where my question was coming from, or my observation. So I've played Skyrim through several times.
I like how you pronounce it, Skyrim.
Everything
I've
comes
never
back.
heard the
Everything
Skyrim.
comes back to
Skyrim or Skyrim?
Skyrim.
Skyrim?
That's
Is that
the Latin.
how we say it?
That's how the Romans would say Skyrim.
Apparently, it's Skyrim. Yeah.
How
Well,
would
that must be
y'all-
the
how do
correct
y'all-
way to say
How do
it.
y'all say it?
I always
Yeah,
thought it was
obviously.
Skyrim. I didn't.
Obviously.
Like the rim of the sky.
Skyrim.
Not the
I think
rum
it's
of the sky.
Skyrim.
He's probably right.
Over in Skyrim, this is how we
Over
do
there in Skyrim in Coleman County.
Scare them.
it. Scare 'em.
Scare him.
Yeah, Skyrim's down there by the bow
Okay,
weevil. And
so you played
Enterprise.
Skyrim.
Anyway, yeah. I mean, I've probably played 3 of the 3,500 releases that they've done.
Yeah.
But I always collect like random mushrooms and yada yada yada. I never do anything with them.
Right, because the game's too easy.
Yeah, it's too easy, and also like what I'm gonna like. Potions are abundant. I'm gonna make some mushroom pasta to heal half as much as a potion would heal.
It's like
me. That's
imbalanced
stupid.
mechanics. It's like, what would you like? Why would you care about,
Right.
the apothecary skill if
Right.
you're not focusing on role playing as that or whatever?
But I guess where I'm going with that is honestly, even if I was really interested in that, I still don't think that I would be like, you know what, I really want to spend hours of this game making various stews that will help me in
All right, so let me
various
tell you
ways.
how Tears of the Kingdom fixes that.
Okay. Okay.
So I didn't cook a lot
This is
in
like
Breath of the Wild
Bitcoin
either.
fixes this kind of thing.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the
fixed
Kingdom
this.
fixes this.
So I didn't cook a lot in Breath of the Wild. I cook all the time in Tears of the Kingdom, and sometimes I'm really ticked off that I don't have a cooking pot near me so I can cook. In fact, one of the technological things you can pick up is a portable cooking pot that's one use.
Okay,
And
Walter White.
They're very useful. Okay. So one, the game is harder,
Okay.
so you need to cook for health more. But also, you can cook stuff that alleviates status effects or environmental effects like cold or hot. One thing that's also extremely useful is money is hard to get. I always feel poor. And one of the
Same.
best things to do.
Now this I can get on board with. They have a hard money system.
Yeah. One of
I
the
mean, feeling poor and weak. This is like, hey, here's your life. Let's play it.
Too real.
so one of the best things you can do is cook up a bunch of junk and sell it.
Yeah, this is also like real life.
Okay. You
Yeah.
can be a professional chef.
And that's another thing. You meet people on the road. So if you stick to the roads, you won't find as like a ton of cool off the beaten path stuff, but you'll find random people walking, which have rumors to other things nearby, and leads to quests. Sometimes they're bad guys; they're random encounters. Other times they're merchants, and you can buy stuff from them. Sometimes you're very excited to find a merchant because you know the things they sell are time-consuming to get in the game, like fireflies. You have to be at the right place at the right time of day to find fireflies, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes you need them for potions or for a quest or something like that. So merchants are really good. You can put merchants in your game. But you can sell stuff to the merchants as well. Anyway, so the cutscene for cooking becomes tiresome after the second time. So you can skip it. But if someone were to emulate it, then I bet that someone else would produce mods for the emulated game. And I bet one of those mods
Preposterous.
would skip repetitive cutscenes, such as upgrading your equipment or cooking. And so you just press the button and it's done.
Nice.
I bet that's what would happen.
Just speculating.
Someone did that for the Hogwarts game with the lady that told you about flu powder every 8 seconds.
Oh yeah, it's like cut this out, please
Yeah.
stop.
Flu powder.
Travel was such a nightmare before I invented flu powder.
It's like anytime you approach the fast travel location that uses flu powder, it's like it prompts the audio dialogue. Where it's like, I know.
I know.
That nobody who make this game, nobody in QA at one point said, maybe we should just tell it to stop.
They just
after."
avoided fast travel completely.
Or maybe they were like, or maybe they said, no, it would be more. I could see someone saying, no, it'd be more realistic because these are just like, it's a magic incantation placed upon the flu powder thing where it just does it.
like
When you get in there.
they overthought it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that you guys overthought it.
I
think-
literally over just thought it right now.
Oh, okay.
I think maybe
Never gave it more thought.
You're
until
like,
right
oh, it's. I want this to stop, but then wait, it's an incantation, so
Yeah.
that's how
speaking
it should be functioning.
As a gamer, I'm just
functioning as
saying-
intended.
Hey, don't overthink it. Make it so it's less annoying to the player. Thanks.
So speaking of the difficulty of Zelda's
that's some
fighting,
good advice, though.
so my kid likes video games, but she doesn't like active fighty video games. The difference was in the Harry Potter game. She loved that, which is basically like Dark Souls with wands. It's not as hard as Dark Souls, but you're dodge rolling and parrying and all that stuff, and it can be pretty difficult. And I've seen her do boss fights and just parry and dodge like an absolute pro. I was very impressed. But she gets into Zelda and doesn't want to fight anything because it's too scary. Even though it's cartoonish, it's just way harder. Like you don't have all the mobility that you want. You have to really plan where your attacks are going to go. And so because of the difficulty, you want to cheese it with all these things you can do, like attaching a flamethrower to your shield to set things on fire.
Sounds
because when they're on fire, they don't attack you.
That does
they
sound
burn.
super awesome.
You can attach a bomb to your shield so they hit it and then blow themselves up. You do all kinds
Come
of
at me, bro.
So when are you going to introduce her to Dark Souls?
I've said, when are you going to do it? When are you going to play Dark Souls?
You're like, come sit with me. Let me tell you.
At some
Stay
point,
a while and listen.
at some point it'll happen. But
Dark Souls.
I think one of the downsides, I think you said that, or Jim said that, or asked this. One of the downsides that we can learn from of Tears
It
of the
was me.
Kingdom-
It was me.
It was you.
Yeah.
Is the storytelling is not that great still.
Ah.
One reason is there's not that much choice. Like, it does all the sandbox stuff really well. It does not do the narrative, the drama, the interactivity very well. It's not like you have a moral quandary you have to solve, or two competing factions that you have to choose between with effects that actually matter in the world. That never happens. You just help a guy put a sign right, so he'll give you 20 rupees.
Do you think that they would ever do anything like that in the Zelda game?
It didn't have to be like George R.R. Martin and like, do you commit incest or not? It didn't have to be like that.
I mean, to my knowledge, they
by
have
the
not
way.
done anything like
Such
that.
a hard decision.
No.
Yeah, maybe they can correct us.
There's literally one answer.
Patreons, our patrons,
Patrons.
our fans. Maybe they can correct us, but to my knowledge, they haven't done anything like that. I mean, is there a game that did do that well?
Yeah, there's lots of games that do that.
Yeah, but that you felt really satisfied and happy.
Well, I mean, lots of RPGs do it. Like all the Mass Effect games do that. Dragon Age does that.
Did you feel satisfied?
Even Dark Souls does that.
I'm just
Did you feel
saying.
satisfied?
Yes, I'm just saying that Zelda, I feel like because of their target audience and the general, what would be the word?
The game has to be open world. I don't know if I mentioned that.
I feel like they want
it has to be open world and also very satisfying in that way. That's all I mean. Sorry, go ahead.
They want it to be very, I think, lighthearted. I feel like I can't see a Zelda game as being super serious.
It doesn't need to be.
Kid friendly? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
like-
got to be kid friendly, kind of repetitive and comforting. Like, we know in the end you're going to beat Ganon, and he's going to be sealed away until the next time that Link has to wake up. And
I
save
mean,
the world.
Link is in an eternal recurrence. The Sisyphean task, of always having to save.
It's like
I mean,
having
he
to mow the
literally
lawn.
he literally woke up to do that at the start of the last
Yeah.
one. I
Yeah.
guess does he wake up to do it
Yeah.
again at this?
That's all
Seriously?
it ever is, and that's all it will ever be.
Actually, no.
Wake up, Link! Time to push your boulder up the hill again.
He does not. He's already awake at the start of this one.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
They just fast forward a bit.
No, they did do some good world building in between. It's been several years since the Breath of the Wild.
Same map.
Same map.
That is so cool to me, actually.
But they did a lot of changes to it because of like cataclysmic events that happened off screen before the game started.
A Link to the Past literally did that too, right?
It has like a dark world.
Yeah.
I never played Majora's Mask, but it did a bunch of weird stuff with time. It had a loop.
Yeah,
time loop.
it's so funny because my Zelda journey was exactly the same as yours. I played
Really?
none of the ones in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
You played Ocarina of Time though, right?
Yes, loved it. It was a great
Okay,
game.
and that's the last one I played.
Yep. And then Breath of the Wild. But all the ones, anything else in the middle, I can hardly even name them. I don't even know.
Yeah, playing this one has made me want to go back and play the other ones. The Nintendo
Isn't it like
just
a
got their hooks in me.
Wind Waker,
Wind
Waker.
Waker, Skyward Sword, Spirit Tracks, Majora's Mask.
There's four?
Link's
in
Awakening.
between what and
Five?
what?
Oh, Ocarina of Time is the
Nintendo 64 probably came out in like 1996.
Ocarina of Time is like
I
the
don't know.
only Zelda game I ever really played much of.
Yeah.
And that was when I was in college.
I played the original and then Link's Awakening for the Super NES. Or
So,
Link to the Past, I mean.
So, I think it's cool when you make dramatic changes to the game world, but I feel like they're all pretty scripted in the Zelda games. Like, you can't not do it or something like that.
Yeah, and it's like...
And it would be cool if you did.
I never do a quest where I'm like, wow, I wonder what's going to happen. This is going to be a hard choice. Or, I really care about this. I'm mostly almost skipping through the dialogue because I was like, yeah, this person's going to help me. He's going to want to help, and I'm going to go over here. So I don't really care about the actual fictional events except for like saving Zelda and killing Ganon. Everything else is kind of an excuse to do cool stuff.
And I guess that's my point, I guess, in asking that. Like, is there a natural tension in having both an open world and a great narrative of some sort? That's all. That's all I'm saying.
I think in general, it's harder to make that.
At the table, is it the same way?
I think yes,
There you
there is
go.
a natural tension.
I say no,
Oh,
depending. I mean, I think it's harder to code for it.
I feel like you can have an open world that has narratives in it. Like you stick little stories in the world.
Like Dark Souls and Elden Ring, they do that. Although they're typically not very elaborate.
No, and I don't know if they do it in a great way. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was saying that the tension is that it is more difficult to keep the narrative tight, concise, and pointed. The more open world and the more freedom you give.
Yes.
Because it just becomes more complex to try to keep the narrative focused.
My story right now is about Link basically wanting to fill out his map of the entire game. Because that's what I've been interested in
Reveal
doing.
this part of the map.
Well, I think the danger is you get this thing where like it's open world, but when you get here, you have all of this stuff that happens that's disconnected from everything else. And then you go to this other place, and you have all this stuff that happens, but there's no real.
And there's a problem too because
It's like
you can
a
always
module
leave that
within-
place and
Right.
like usually they'll want you to come back and advance the story. In real life, if we're gonna be realistic about it, you encounter some people and leave. Well, they're gonna see their natural end, like their story's gonna play out without you being there. But most games will want you to go back and encounter the next part of the story, do the next advancement in the story. And in that meantime, you could have gone and like screwed around and collected mushrooms for 10 hours. I don't know. But that's like not, I don't know. It makes it feel like it's not very realistic. It's not done well, I guess.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it kind of, I guess it maybe undermines the idea of having an open world place where you want it to be like an ongoing world that feels like weighty and real and physical, but then you have this like little story kind of laid on top that you have to come in advance every so often. When if it just played itself out, it would make more sense. Like if you just say, I don't really care about that, and then you leave, you come back and everybody's slaughtered in the village. It's like, okay, well that's fair,
Yeah, and
That seems fair to me.
They could actually do that.
They
for
could
sure.
literally do that.
Yeah.
Just not pull any punches.
Yeah, that would be cool. Because, your daughter has gone missing? Sorry, I'm trying to find the princess. So,
Oh God, that really
Yeah,
sucks.
stinks.
Yeah.
But another thing that these open world games have a problem with is giving you like a really urgent main quest and then giving you a bunch of side quests that don't really matter. Like you would never waste time doing any of that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, they have to introduce I
felt that way in games so far for sure.
Mechanic that just like advances time. It's like, well, if you're not going to address it, then you could be in game and you could just straight up lose because you decided to go off and do a thing.
Yeah.
Like a
the
Doom
good
clock. Or
the good thing
Doomsday
is
clock.
like a lot of this stuff would make sense for like post game. Like after you do the main quest, there's all this other stuff still out there. But typically, I have found that like these post game activities are not that interesting. But I think a good compromise is to have a solid main quest that doesn't have a tremendous amount of urgency to it, or that it's not clear how to complete it, so that it makes sense narratively that you'd be collecting mushrooms for 10 hours.
And that's probably, if you want to run a game like that, how it should be. It shouldn't be the demon army marching on the city or something like that. They're coming from the north, and here they come. And then you go and screw off for, again, 10 to 20 hours gathering mushrooms.
So
Like, okay, I've got my mushrooms cooked.
could we classify that under pacing? proper pacing?
Probably the best proper pacing would be it could be a high story or something like that. Like it's not particularly urgent, but you got to figure out a way to solve it. You gotta figure out a way to do it.
Speaking of high story,
Yeah.
I did not pay specifically to see it, but I was already subscribed to a subscription service on which the Dungeons and Dragons movie existed, and my daughter wanted to see it, so I did watch it.
I feel like this is important that you needed to put a disclaimer like
Wait,
you did not
But
pay
who's
to
actually seen it though?
I've seen it.
Tim, have you seen it?
I saw it in the theaters with
Stefano?
a bunch of children.
Okay, so we've all seen it.
We watched
Wait,
it
you
on the
just seen it?
streaming.
No, we've all seen it. We've all seen it.
We
So,
watched it on streaming.
So-
I didn't know that y'all saw it.
how much do you guys like it?
It's D&D movie review time now.
Okay.
Okay.
I did not know that
Wait.
everybody saw this. How do we not talk about this? We talked about going to see it in the theater, and
Can
then
I make an observation before we talk about the D&D movie?
Yeah.
So, the whole thing where Gygax started this quasi-cult and they all were in this compound in
What are you
Vermont.
talking about?
Didn't-
What are you talking about?
So-
What? Wait, Gygax?
No. So
is this a
didn't-
Jack Chick track you're talking about?
No, yeah, hopefully. No, didn't Gygax have like a compound
No.
in Vermont?
No.
He lived in a house in Vermont
No.
with like tons and tons of players.
No.
He had a house. It wasn't a compound.
And it wasn't in
I thought
Vermont.
It was
a
his
compound,
basement.
And I seriously thought it was in Vermont.
It was in
It was in like Wisconsin.
This feels
or,
like a New York
was
Times
Midwest.
article.
Yeah, it was the
Maybe,
Midwest.
Maybe I read this on some chick
Okay.
track. No,
they
but
turned it into a compound.
so
he had like
when
he would have
he had like
large
50 or 60 people that played with him, right?
I thought it was more like 20 to 30, but
It's
I don't
more
know.
like it's closer to 40-ish.
The
but they
story
didn't live with
sounds
him.
cooler if there were 60 people living in a compound with Gygax.
Okay.
So
No,
that's what I'm going
stop.
with.
It's like Fight Club.
Yes.
Yes,
It
that's
was
right.
actually just Gary Gygax, but in his mind, it was 65 people in a compound.
Okay, so Stefano, the way it
It's
was
Fight Club.
is they already had they knew the war gamers in the area.
Right.
And so it's just all the war gamers would already get together.
Yes.
And so then they started playing Gary and Dave's game
Right.
in Wisconsin.
So here's
But
where I'm
then-
going with that. In Wisconsin, Vermont, it's basically the
They
same.
shaved all their body hair off
Yes.
and only wore white.
Right.
And they left their given name
So just like us.
and
basically.
only had their character name. That's right.
Where I'm going with this is, but they, I think this was when we were playing the AD&D module that this came to me.
I love this
Where is
fake
this
history
going?
part. This is great.
No, we did play an AD&D
No, go.
module.
We did. We played it.
keep going.
No, fake
In
history
the
about Gygax.
game, time passed
Okay,
just
yeah.
as it did in real life,
Uh-huh.
right? And
Ah.
so some of those questions about pacing and why can you just withdraw from combat and go do other stuff and
Or
then come
eat a
back
turkey.
to it
Yeah.
is kind of solved in the RPG world if you go by that model.
Well, you don't
where-
even, I mean, yeah, but you don't even have to do that because as the DM, you can just be like, well, all this stuff would have happened while you guys were over in Neverwinter. You know.
Yeah, so you're saying you don't have to actually keep like one-to-one time. Okay, yeah, that's totally true.
But
I think
if you
he's
do
trying to
one-to-one
say
time,
that
it forces you.
It was
trying
a
to say that
very
things-
roundabout
the things
way
are
of
still
me getting
happening.
to the idea of one-to-one time making kind of some
So
sense.
if you played Hero Quest, okay, we'll get around to the D&D movie in a second. But okay, listen, okay, so you read this little book and it tells you what's in every room and it tells you what happens in every room. Okay, right? So say you enter this dungeon, okay? These dungeons are placed in D&D world. You enter it, and you go fight a couple people in the first room, and then you leave and come back. What would you expect? Well, if you're running it just as written, if you're
room
running it
resets.
like most video games, yeah, the room could reset, or maybe you just continue to the next room and like nothing's different at all.
They don't chase
But
you out of the room.
if you actually run it like what Stefano's saying, like this, you come back to this dungeon and they have prepared a robust defense for the people who are trying to invade them. And what do you need this? You need this here with this? Oh, these are good. These are good.
Oh, don't get crunching on me.
We have all dressed chips.
I'm going to mute
A
you.
savory mixture of ketchup, vinegar and salt, and barbecue.
Probably some other stuff.
You said it's from the Aldi?
Oh, it's from the Aldi, yeah.
It's from the Aldi. It's great. It's great.
You're muted.
So, anywho.
Seed oils.
You're muted. All right, so we're gonna talk about Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, let's take a break so Tim can eat chips. GG review of Dungeons and Dragons, whatever the subtitle was. I don't remember. Do you remember the subtitle?
Something of thieves.
Honor Among Thieves.
Honor. There. See, I was right.
Let me give my overall high-level impressions as probably the most devoted hater of WotC.
Okay.
Overall, as a commercial product, I thought it was pretty good.
Yes.
It was basically the Marvel version of D&D. It was quippy. It was pretty to look at. The actors were all competent and charming. You had Hugh Grant being a villain and being silly.
He was so good.
Chris Pine looked really old. Maybe.
Oh, you kind of thought so?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely older than.
How old
usually
is he
but
actually?
He's probably really old.
Hey,
He's probably
how old
our
is Chris
age.
Pine?
If I had to guess.
No, he's
Hey,
older.
Jamie.
He's 42.
Really? He looks older
See,
than that.
yeah. He's
Maybe I look old and I just don't realize it. That's probably.
Oh, that's a funny thing. So I've seen not to interrupt, but I've seen actors like when we went to Dragon Con, who look great on screen, super old looking in person.
Yeah, like on their panels.
Yeah, I'm not gonna name any names just in case they listen. I don't want to offend them.
Yeah, we have a lot of celebrity listeners.
Yeah.
In case we ever
Pod.
meet, I'm sorry.
But in general, yes, I have it is a better than average movie, period.
Yeah.
I was very surprised. So
Pleasantly surprised.
How many stars out of 5 will you give it?
I will give it 3 stars out of 5, just objectively.
I will give it 4 out of 5.
Nah.
I'll give it 4.5 out of 5.
Whoa.
I'm more probably 3.5 stars. I liked it. I didn't think it was great, but better than I expected.
I want to see them take this film and take the formula and grind out half a dozen more. I'd love for them to literally just keep having adventures and watch it over and over and over again.
I don't want them to do that.
and
I want
accept it for
WotC
what it is.
I want WotC to fail and for them to sell their property to another who will be a better steward.
Yeah.
But
This
and then
is the
they
right
can-
step.
And then they can make good movies.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's funny that the kind of movie they chose is the least representative of actual D&D. How many heists are actually run as a percentage of D&D sessions compared to dungeon crawls or even social interaction stuff? Very small.
Well, and if you mean a heist in the formal sense, yes, I definitely understand that. But what really spoke to me was the intricate and kind of absurd planning
Yes,
that
that
goes
was
into
the best
figuring
part.
something out.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
the idea,
And then
yeah.
changing plans over and over and over because things aren't working out. And that's like
Yeah.
every episode of Gigi No Re almost. I mean, that's totally how we live our lives.
And that's
So-
that's a thing that I did like about it. Like that part of it was very true to D&D. Like
Totally.
trying to solve problems, things going totally wrong, and then you come up with a solution based on social cues, like talking to people, and then using your spells, and when things go wrong, fighting people.
Yeah, I know nothing about how they made the movie, but I feel like some of the stories actually came from D&D games.
And that would not surprise
Like doing like a Speak with the Dead thing like that.
Right,
And you
yeah.
you just dig up random soldiers and question them over and over and over again. And the whole thing about, just the hilarity of, you can only ask them, 3 questions or whatever. If you ask them 2, they just kind of wait for you to ask them the third one.
I thought that was a pretty good
It
gag.
was such a funny gag. Yeah, it was.
The fat dragon was quite silly.
That,
Yes.
I like that one. But like
fun.
their attempts at like introducing drama, I thought kind of fell flat. Like the whole thing with this kid. Yeah, I thought was the weakest part of the movie. Like they just needed to have embraced the fun, just made it a heist. We don't care about the fake made up drama with the main character and his family. Like that, the whole time I was watching this, I just felt like I was being assaulted by that. Like this isn't real. I don't care about this. I know you don't care about this, and you just invented it in order to like check a box to try to make it like more relatable or something. Because the rest of the movie, like I said, like those parts that were more true to actual D&D were fun. The banter between the characters was fun. I thought it was funny, like how high level some of the people must have been. Like, when can you wild shape into an owl bear?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty high actually.
So
yeah.
she would not be some random druid.
Well,
signing
also
on to
being
some
able
random
to
heist.
wild shape in and out of
yeah,
these
multiple
creatures
times.
multiple
Yeah.
times and know like
Like that druid probably was like at least like 9th level. Now I never play actual character, so I don't know the level, but it's got to be high to be like a. 'Cause
Yeah,
owlbears
how
are
many
like-
hit
Can't
die
you
does
only
a owlbear have?
At
Is
least
it
four,
five?
like a couple
Okay,
of
I was gonna say
times
5,
between
but might be 4.
can't you only do it a couple of times between rests?
It depends on how high level you are.
Oh, do you
Yeah.
get
So
additional?
I'll just push back
You're
against that a
limited.
little bit. I do like that the characters had seemingly sincere motivations that were made clear and that they followed through on. And I feel like it's a big improvement over the last D&D movie. I consider the
only
last
other-
one to be the Dungeons and Dragons with
You talking about
with the
one
Wayans brother,
Wayans
in which it was just, I mean, God, it's been forever since I've seen it, but it just seemed so aimless. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
The
watched
only
it.
person who had a motivation was like the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish they would do an actual D&D movie that was about like actual D&D, but as I've said before, the closest to that is Bone Tomahawk, which is a western, not actual D&D, and it's only recommended if you can handle really gory, depressing stuff, but it's the best actual D&D experience in a movie, I think, so far. But they should do something like that with like actual orcs and swords and stuff. That would be so cool. Like a low level, more gritty, because this is like the opposite of gritty, this one. But
But they want it to be entertaining.
they
though.
do. Well, things are entertaining that are gritty, right?
Well, yeah, but you gotta understand. I mean, they gotta recoup their costs.
Or even not.
okay,
It's
so
not
they
even
have-
gritty.
so
I'm not
they
even
have-
saying gritty. I mean like actually heroic. Like
okay.
this was not a heroic movie, which is fine. But that's what I want: gritty or heroic, and or
What are you talking
heroic.
about? Heroes are smart and they make funny quips.
No.
and they have personal.
It's like Han
deficiencies.
Solo,
Basically, Han Solo. I mean, that is a hero in the current.
But you
Indiana
notice-
Jones.
You notice
They're
Han
all
Solo
Harrison Ford.
is the side character. He's not the main. The main character is the heroic journey, right? That's what we
Okay,
want. That's what we
okay.
crave.
So whiny farm boy.
Yeah, I want a whiny. I would rather have had a whiny farm boy. I want Star Wars, but
okay,
with-
I'll
take
agree
the
with you
lasers,
there. I
Take the
think-
lasers away and just put metal there, and then do Star Wars.
I'm afraid that when you frame it like that, they could have had more of a hero's journey.
exactly.
No one was really changed at the end of the day.
But there were some great gags though, like the Aarakocra
Oh, great.
Yeah.
gag. That was fun, and it's a great way to use.
You're just
that
really
race.
waiting. He'll be especially sympathetic to my case. He comes and they just grab him. And
He's got
shove
wings
him.
and he can fly.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it reminded me very much
and
of a
didn't
D&D
they do
game.
that twice or
Yeah.
attempted it twice? Yeah.
You know what? You know what? It reminded me even more of a D&D game because there was not a hero's journey.
There's a bunch of ridiculous.
Because
shenanigans.
we all just had like random reasons to do things, and we ended up in a group together, and so we did stuff. You know, and I don't know. I'll just for myself in my house, my wife loved it. She wants to show it to the kids.
Yeah,
You know, she's excited by it.
my family liked it a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
But they could do Temple of Elemental Evil. They could do Hamlet as a movie. They
Oh,
could
that'd be a fun idea.
They could take these old modules, slap some basic backstory on them, turn to a movie, just count the cash. Because if it's well done, and you get all these millennials and Gen Xers to go see it for nostalgia reasons, plus you get recognizable actors, and it's an action movie, it's gonna make money. So that's what they should do. Wizards,
But
don't do that.
It's going to be like Marvel-y, though. It's going to be...
I'm saying it would make money, so don't do it.
Okay.
Go bankrupt, sell, then the next company does that. Okay.
Wow, we just are just coming out hardcore against WotC there. That's...
We've always been hardcore against
Oh, okay.
WotC.
Wow.
Well, maybe not always. Not at
Do
the
you remember that
very,
time
very
when
start.
remember that time when we talked about what the best what our preferred system was when I wasn't here that time, and you guys all said 5e.
Well, to be
You should say
fair,
4/5 of you did, or some
I
5,
think-
6.
Yeah, most people said 5e, and I understand why. It's a good simplified version of D&D.
Well, I was here and I said 5e because it was the only system I had really played.
Yeah, it's not really
other
fair.
than Pathfinder, which was
yeah.
not as.
Why do we even let you vote?
Do they have
Well,
a Pathfinder
I
movie?
definitely prefaced it by
No.
saying
I thought they did. I know they've made video games.
I really want to underline the importance of the IP, and I just hope that they continue in this vein. It's pure entertainment. It's fun, but it takes itself seriously enough that you kind of care, but then not so seriously that it's like a boring grind. That's hard to watch. Brutal, like too brutal and too graphic. Like the violence was meaningful. I thought it was great. I liked it.
I disagree with your comments on the violence. I thought it was.
I like meaningful violence.
I didn't think it was meaningful. I thought it was play patty cake. I didn't like it.
Okay. So you offered Tomahawk.
Bone Tomahawk.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
It's a great movie.
I've seen a few things recently that were very D&D to me. One of them was The Green Knight.
Yeah. Also The Descent, classic.
Oh, that's great.
Classic.
So there's a series. Oh my God, it's on Netflix. It's by the guy who did Pan's Labyrinth. What is it called?
Pinocchio.
It's called Curio of Horrors, or I don't know, something stupid like that. So I watched a few episodes when I was having a couple beers one night, right? And there's an episode where I think it's episode 2, where this guy's a grave robber, and I don't want to spoil anything, but he gets into a grave, ends up with more than he can chew. Okay. But I thought it was just a great D&D adventure.
Okay.
Watch the grave robber episode of that.
2 other suggestions for D&D related media. The barrow wight scene from, not Lord of the Rings, from, what's it called? The Northman.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't seen The Northman, you should watch it. Mm-hmm. There's a scene where he goes Skyrim mode, and it's very D&D. But it takes like 5 minutes. So the whole. Oh, but the sword he gets is also cool. He can only unsheath it at night. Very fun. Yeah. Very D&D.
And it can only resheath it after it's shed blood, right?
I don't remember.
Isn't that part of that too?
I don't know.
Otherwise, you have to like carry it around.
I don't recall that.
Yeah,
there's a scene. There's scenes in the movie where he has to like hit people with it while it's still in the sheath because he can't take it out yet. Right. It's fun.
I like that.
Another one is Dungeon Meshi, Delicious in Dungeon, some manga, and I think in January the anime version is coming out.
That could be fun.
It is a delightful anime manga, and I highly recommend it. It's got like the chapter divisions often have like dungeon maps of where they are. There's actually a ton of manga and anime that's set in D&D, like explicitly D&D stuff. Like
it's good. What about the Goonies?
Never seen it. I still haven't seen it.
Have you seen the Goonies?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I don't know why. You need to see it. It's totally D&D.
I didn't see Back to the Future until like a couple years ago. My 80s like kids movie stuff, like E.T., I watched that as an adult.
Wow.
I never saw any of these things.
Yeah, I remember being like, "You never seen Ghostbusters? You never seen Neverending Story? What's wrong with you, little only child?"
No, I did see a Neverending Story when I was
Neverending Story is what's wrong with us, actually.
So, D&D. I thought, you guys like the Thumberchod scene, whatever his name is. Thumberchod, the fat dragon.
Oh,
that's his name, by the way.
Okay, that's kind of dumb.
What's his name?
I've never ran him as a DM.
Thunderchad?
Thimber.
I didn't know he had a name.
Shod.
How do you know he has a name?
Yeah.
Is it from like a module or something?
It's if you pick up like one of these monster manuals over here, he'll be in there.
For real?
Yes.
I don't pay attention to WotC lore. Is it WotC lore or is it just like ancient D&D lore?
He's a Forgotten Realms character.
Oh, well, that's why I don't know. I don't like the Forgotten
Mr.
Realms.
Fat Dragon, Thimberchod.
Hey, there's a publishing company called Fat Dragon Games. I wonder if that's what that's named after.
So he was in the Abyss game, the Out of the Abyss.
Yeah, that we played.
Really?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
He was in one of the places that we never went.
Well, that's why
Clearly.
you know about it. Okay.
But I don't really know about it because I never actually embodied him, so I don't really know. But
And I kind of like the paladin character.
there's a possibility to know
I wish he was more.
Yeah.
I wish he was more present, like with the party. But I guess it
I
wouldn't
thought
have
he
made
was
sense.
hilarious
It was the heist, you know what I'm saying?
because he was like so good at it.
But also,
Hyper.
He's like hyper competent.
they had a
He's
problem.
like, I will leave you now.
It's the same problem they have with like high level characters. Like they weren't doing stuff that made his setup made more sense as a high level character. He was kind of like a figure of power, like political power in his little area. You know, everybody knew who he was, and he was doing his own thing and just like popping in to help the party occasionally. So I thought that was nice.
I like when he was leaving in a straight line.
Yeah. That was
Like he's gonna walk over the rock. or
I
just
literally
gonna-
laughed out loud. in the theater
I
at
laughed
that.
out loud at that too.
I was like, okay.
Had
so-
a lot of laugh out loud moments there.
Pretty glowing review from
Yeah.
the D&D crew, which you might not have expected.
Do recommend. Yes.
So we do recommend it, but I recommend you not pay for it. However, you manage to do that.
Get it as cheap. I mean, I would recommend this for all things. Get it as cheap as you can.
And
Was that on
sometimes that's free.
Hulu or Paramount? I
It's
don't
on
remember.
Paramount.
Paramount is what it's.
I
So
have-
I have Paramount for a very weird reason.
Yeah. Okay.
We like to watch old CSIs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes,
very
that's our
wow.
That's our weird comfort food. All
right.
Have a little glass of wine, watch a CSI before we go to bed thing.
I'm not going to judge you on that.
I had it to watch episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Yeah.
Have you watched Picard?
I refuse.
I watched a bunch of reviews. that
Although
was-
I
showed
have
how
not watched
bad it
Picard.
was- it
We
was.
got it to watch Italian soccer, but we watched one of the Yellowstone.
What's that like? Did they just throw
prequels.
pasta at each other the whole time?
We can't talk
No,
about
no,
that.
no. It's just like regular soccer, but there's a lot of hand gestures and also an inordinate amount of flopping. It's great. A guy will like run past another guy, and he will seize his chest and just fall to the ground.
Oh,
It's fantastic, but we watched one of the Yellowstone prequels and thought that was
Wait, prequel
surprisingly
as opposed to
okay.
like an original. Have you watched regular Yellowstone episodes?
No,
never.
So you
not
just-
at all.
So you started with the prequels.
I just thought it was a cowboy show. So
I didn't know that-
watched it,
I didn't
and
know
it
there
was
were
actually-
prequels.
There's like 2 or 3 of them.
I can't say my true
Wow.
feelings. Many such cases.
One is set in like the 1800s. That's the one we watched, and it has like Tim McGraw, who's like kind of freaking awesome in this role.
You're a country singer, so be in this semi-country themed.
But also,
type of
You remember the
show.
time?
Shoot a lot of
wasn't Tim
people.
McGraw? Was he in like Varsity Blues or something?
Probably.
Or no?
Probably.
No, that was
Well,
Miley Cyrus's dad.
in this role, it's
Cyrus.
the other guy.
Billy Cyrus. That's
Billy
what it was.
Ray. Billy
Remember
Ray
he was in
Cyrus.
Varsity Blues? You guys remember Varsity
I
Blues?
didn't.
No, I never saw
I
that.
never watched it.
Don't
Either.
know if I ever saw that whole
It's a
movie.
football thing.
I just remember the
so-
big fat guy who's now jacked.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that
it's
guy.
very encouraging.
Also,
Yeah.
Billy Ray Cyrus, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like an angry hick dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did it. It was a natural role for him. He was natural.
What were we talking about? Paramount Plus. Yeah.
Plus.
Star Trek. The next, not Picard. I've read that the 3rd season of Picard is better just because it's all nostalgia bait and they try to forget what had happened in the previous 2 seasons, but I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah, not worth it.
It
Well,
ended,
for me,
it ended with the
Star
last
Trek.
episode.
Yeah, Star Trek, the Next Generation, the end was the end for me.
There were no movies. You may think that there were movies afterward, but there were not. They don't exist.
The end is the end.
Yep, exactly. And did you know the end of Star Trek Picard episode 3 is exactly the same as the end of The Next Generation?
Really?
They're playing poker. They just realized, oh, wait, we don't have any new ideas and we're incompetent. So we're just going to literally recapitulate the thing that was good from 30 years ago. Just like they did with the new Star Wars movies.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. There's nothing. Stuck. Decline.
Return.
Media has fallen. It's over. All right.
Oh,
That's-
that's a dark ending. Hey, but D&D movie, that's great.
Yeah. Well,
They haven't really done that before, so.
yeah, this was an improvement. This was
Conan, the
line
original
goes up.
Conan the Barbarian movie.
Line goes down after that.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
You've seen this?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the Conan What's Best in Life.
It's
right?
it's pretty D&D.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean-
true.
Uh-huh.
It's true.
Anyways,
Very
we could play this game all day.
Hear the
okay.
lamentations of their women.
That's right.
But real talk though,
So true.
I mean, come on.
there was a cut scene where after that, a guy goes, "So true, Oomphy," and Conan nods at him. but that was cut in the 80s. John Milius didn't want that in the final cut.
No, he didn't have to say it because we already knew it was true.
Yeah.
So,
all right, this has been ggnore. We're back. Yeah, we're back, and we're going to be actually playing D&D in time and times and half a time. So just hold on to your horses.
We fully intend to. It is our plan. It is our intent. Who knows when, but it will happen.
If you're mad that we haven't played, it's probably you can direct your complaints to Nintendo, because I've been playing a lot of Zelda. I'm not going to lie. I don't play video games that much, but when I do, it's unhealthy. Like we're putting in 130 hours to Elden Ring. Who knows how much we're putting into Zelda? It's a bad scene. And you know what? Armored Core is coming out in August, end of August, and then we get that huge Elden Ring DLC next year, probably. It's going to be bad time for the podcast. That's all I'm saying.
So 130 hours of Elden Ring, and then others who have gathered at this table played even more.
Yes, those are rookie numbers. All right.
Oh.
D&D, it's a good game. We're going to play it. Bye-bye.